Education. Okay, first item on the agenda is we could stand and say the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Phillips, would you call the roll, please?
Brian Bagwell. Here. Ralph Wintz.
Here.
Amy White.
Here.
Terry Lally.
Here.
And I'm told Mr. Christian will not be here tonight.
Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from the July 13th meeting, the June 29th meeting, July 14th, and August 4th. Can I have a motion to approve them, or was there any additions or corrections also?
So moved.
Amy moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on to Mr. Phillips and the Treasurer's report.
Okay, I'd like to start. About 10 years ago, the State Auditor's Office began giving governmental entities awards if they had clean audits. And for the 10th year in a row, or would it be 11th now, 2010 through now, we got for the 2019 audit, we did get an Auditor of State award. I showed you a copy of that. And I'd like to congratulate Amy Senafani and April Habiger, the two that really make that stuff happen. They're the rubber hitting the road in our office, so to speak. So I want to let you know about that, first of all. And second, the financial report, our fund balance, all funds, for the general, I'm sorry, not all funds, for the general fund, $3,886,776.32. There's an unencumbered balance of $1,213,903.55. This time of year, encumbrances are high, that number being $2,672,872.77. Every year, at the beginning of the year, we encumber our big utilities, health insurance, dental insurance. Some of our bigger expenses get encumbered, a PO written for the whole year. And so that number is big this time of year, and it dwindles as the year goes on. Towards the end, our grants, we have one more payroll that's not showing up yet, so there's only the one negative amount in the Title I 572 grant. Another payroll should be posted. We have a pay this Friday. It should be posted by this Wednesday. Once that's done, I'll do the final cash request, which will trigger the final expenditure report for last year's grants, and then people will start getting paid. You'll start seeing well, you see already there's zero balances now, but the 9021 Special Cost Center in the 500s will be for next year's grants. Our total fund balance for all funds, $5,714,461.73. Again, the unencumbered balance, $2,715,868.87. Property tax advances have been coming in. We don't have final settlement yet, but that cash balance is high because of the second half tax collections getting close to being final settlement. The cash reconciliation, Premier Bank, Farmers Bank, and Star Ohio, those total $5,459,144.01. Outstanding checks, $222,462.28. We have a deposit in transit, looks like one of the property tax settlements, $477,000 even. And so when you do the math, petty cash, $780 as always. And when you do the math, that gives your total balance $5,714,461.73, which does match our total bank balance. You were also given the appropriation report, as always, revenue report, and disbursement report. And if there are any questions on any of those, I can entertain them. If not, that's it for the financials.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Phillips? If not, I'd ask for a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Brian moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on to new business and district reports and good news. And Mrs. Carlson.
Good evening, welcome. I do have a few people here that we just kind of wanted to report out where we are kind of in our planning process and prepared, get ready, return students to school. Mr. Zolik, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Good evening, everybody. Just sort of been asked, as well as Mr. Rowan, to speak on our orientation procedures for this year, because things are going to be totally different, as I'm sure you're aware. We will not be doing face-to-face orientation. The teachers will be working on a video presentation this week. Friday especially, there's a teacher report day, so in the morning, if they haven't yet completed that video, they are to work on that Friday morning. We're going to push that video out the week of the 24th. So all students, all families will get that video via Google Classroom or the teacher website. That will just highlight the expectations for the year. Certainly we have fourth graders coming to fifth grade, so that's going to be huge for them to get a better understanding of what's going to happen in fifth grade. Normally, that same on orientation night, we have, they get their schedules, they go meet their teachers, they get into their lockers, but I've scheduled times during next week for those students and families to get into their lockers and pick up their schedules. I'll just give you an example. Like on Monday the 24th, grades 5 through 7 are coming in. The last names A through L will be coming 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and M through Z will be 11:30 to 12:30. And then later in the week, Wednesday, I have evening times available so that if they can't get here in the mornings or the early afternoons, hopefully they're able to get here in the evening, just trying to accommodate work schedules and those kinds of things. So it's going to be different. We're just hoping it goes well. I know the teachers do a phenomenal job with the video, and fortunately we got somewhat accustomed to it during the shutdown, doing those videos and presenting them through Google Classroom, things like that. So I did send a mailer home the end of last week just regarding the orientation procedures and the locker assignments and schedule pickup. So families should be receiving that. Again, it just highlights the times and the days. They should be getting that sometime this week if they haven't already gotten it. And then we'll go from there. Hopefully it works out, and I think it will.
Evening, everyone. At the high school, a little bit different than we've done in the past. We are planning on next Tuesday to have the seniors come in. They're going to go on Google Classroom. There's a Google Classroom set up for every class in our building, class of 2021, 22, 23, and 24. They'll go on, they'll sign up, 10 kids at a time. We think we can get 10 kids through in about 20 minutes. They'll come in, pick up their schedule. Seniors will go on Tuesday, juniors Wednesday, sophomores Thursday, freshmen Friday. It's going to be a little different than we've done in the past because the classes that the kids need for graduation will be on their schedule, and that's all that will be on their schedule. Then they will go into a room and they'll see what periods they have the classes, and they'll have to look at a board and see electives that are open on periods that they don't have classes, and they'll be able to choose electives right then and there. We'll schedule them and we'll close them. The reason we're doing that is because we're trying to keep the elective classes as balanced as we can, because in art and foods, those classes we're trying to keep, if there's, let's say, 24 kids in a class, we're trying to keep 12 and 12, depending on how we're breaking down for the higher start. So 12 kids at the beginning of the alphabet, 12 kids at the end of the alphabet. So each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have about 12 kids in each one of those classes. So we're really keeping track of that when we're doing the scheduling this year. So that's going to be something that's a little cumbersome, but we should be able to get through it. We also put together a letter, I think Mr. Zolik referred to, that we normally send out with all the emergency medical forms and the parent consent and voucher papers. We're sending that out tomorrow. It's going to go out in the high school. Kids need to bring all those papers back in order to get their schedule next week, whatever day they're coming to pick up their schedule. They have to bring all those papers back in order to schedule. Still kind of plugging away with the vouchers because we don't know what's going to happen. If we have to get rid of them, it's easier to get rid of them after we've already started than to not start and then realize that we want to have them in there. So we're kind of just running forward with the vouchers like we have in the past. It's not going to be run the same as what it always is, but we just have it there just to have, and we can just pull it if we have to. Any questions? Okay.
Carlson, can you give them a mic?
Yeah.
To make it easier for everybody to hear.
Mr. Matos was not able to be here tonight. He will also be sending something home. We are still doing kindergarten screening starting the 24th, where parents will be scheduled to bring them in. And then he is also going to be sending a letter home regarding how students will find out their classrooms, how teachers, different websites for videos as well as that. Ms. Pierce. Let's see. Give me yours. Thank you.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay, so as far as the cafeteria goes, K through 6 is eating in their classrooms. So the way we're going to approach that is I created a Google Doc to send to all K through 6 teachers. So in the morning, they'll, while they're taking attendance, they'll ask their students if they want the hot option or the cold option for that day. And then we'll prepare that in the kitchen, and then those meals will be delivered at their lunch times, and that's K through 6. And then 7 through 12 is still eating in the cafeteria. I think the hybrid start is good, especially for this, just to kind of get a feel for the flow. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of changes with delivering lunches, having them bagged up, and then also 7 through 12, like I said, eating in the cafeteria still. We'll also offer, if there's any remote learners, they'll also be eligible no matter their lunch status, so free, reduced, or full paid, to partake in the lunch program. So if they did want a lunch and a breakfast, I was planning on doing a once-a-week pickup for remote learners, if they would like the meals as well. So that's the plans for the cafeteria.
Brenda? Ms. Hammond will be next for transportation.
Good evening. Just a few things we've done is, and since it is the blended Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, so the buses will be at like 50% capacity, which should allow us to have one student per seat, unless it's siblings. That is actually what will save us, and a lot of it is the brothers and sisters can sit together. There's hand sanitizer dispensers that's been installed in every bus. When the kids get on, they can use it. When they get off, especially want them to use it. It's right, most of them are right at the stairwell, so when they go up, it's right there, and the bus driver can also make sure no one's playing with it. Masks are mandatory, of course, and we're going to have extra ones on the bus for anyone who happens to forget it. If it happens a couple times, then we'll have to notify parents or something, but we will have extra ones on the bus for those kids. Assigned seats are a must. That way, if there's a problem, we know exactly who sat around them, and we can address that. We're going to hopefully leave the first row of seats behind the driver empty. That way, there's distance and space between the driver and the students. And I'm looking at possibly starting to load, like the first students get on, they'll go all the way to the back of the bus, and then we'll load from the back of the bus up to the front. That way there shouldn't be any students even passing other students, in that way of doing it. Other than that, that's where we are right now.
Next will be athletics, Mr. Farron.
This has been a very difficult summer, I would say the least. But we just want to announce a couple things that are going to be different for Friday night football games. Due to the governor and the ODH and the OHSAA's recent changes to this 6-game regular season, we have to make some adjustments to our ticketing, passes, reserve seating. For this season, the 2020 season, we will not offer any season passes or reserve seating. Originally, we had tried to space out things so we could do that, but with what we are hearing out of Columbus, it will be really impossible to do that. The other thing is with our Northeast 8 Conference, there will be no tickets at our gate. All tickets will be pre-sale tickets. The way we are going to do this, Tuesday and Wednesday, we will have cheerleaders, band members, and football players. Their families per household are permitted to purchase 4 tickets. On Thursday, we will have our students who can purchase a single ticket. And then on Friday, if we have any tickets available left over, then that will be open to the general public. The reason is just because they are limiting our capacity in the stadium this year, and as of right now, we have no idea what that will be. We have some good insight on what it'll be, and realistically, it's going to be tough to get people in that want to get in there. What we are encouraging for the cheerleaders, band members, and football members to do, their parents, we are hoping they will send the money in with their child. That way we limit the ins and out of the building. From 11:30 to 3 o'clock on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, I will be sitting in the front lobby between the outside doors and the inside doors selling tickets. There will be nobody coming in to the building, to the office, so I will be out there. As I said, on Fridays it's general public. Thursday evening, you will be able to check the South Range website, athletic page, South Range Facebook page, to find out if there is ticket availability, or you can call the high school office on Friday morning. They will have that access also. If you do not have a ticket and you show up to the game, you're going to be upset with us, but we cannot let you in. Our faculty this year is going to be permitted to one person to come into the game, but if they do not notify us by Thursday, they are not coming into the game. We are under a very strict guideline by the ODH. There is one school in our conference who has been fined a couple times, and we do not want that to happen. So we have to follow those guidelines. And, as I said, this is rough. I mean, this is, as much as it is for, our school. I know I made Brenda real happy the other day when I said, okay, throw that schedule out, throw that schedule out, throw that schedule out, throw that schedule out, because they're all wrong. After she spent hours putting all our bus trips together, we threw them all out again because they're wrong, because we're just, right now, we're not getting that knowledge we have. Hopefully tomorrow we do. I'm hoping tomorrow something is either a positive or a negative, but either way it has to go. The other thing for the athletics is, we have Tag Day every year, which our booster club brings in a ton of money to give back to our student athletes. This year we had to postpone that, cancel that really, and we're doing a virtual Tag Day. What we're doing is, due to the current COVID-19 pandemic and in an effort to keep our community and children safe by not going door to door, we decided it's best to hold Tag Day this year virtually. I understand everyone's having a tough situation right now, but any amount you could donate would be greatly appreciated. No matter how large or small your donation is,
it will help our athletes in this school district tremendously. It's times like these we need to stick together as a community and a school district to help our children flourish under these certain and unprecedented circumstances. I'd like to thank you from the athletic department, the South Range athletes, and the South Range athletic boosters. And donations are due by September 8th, 2020. You can go online to southrangeathleticboosters.com, or you can mail to South Range Athletic Boosters, care of Sherry Thomas, 11375 Columbiana Canfield Road, Canfield, Ohio. You can go, I would go online. It tells you what you donate, what you will get. But if you go on there, as I said, it was, you know, they bring in, those kids do a lot of work on that one tag day, and they bring in a lot of money. And, you know, they still have their needs. They still have their equipment needs. They still have their supplies they need. And without the community support, I don't want them to, you know, lose out on all that stuff.
Any questions?
Mr. Farron, for the tickets, now is that just for the high school football game on Friday?
High school Friday night football, yes.
So the freshmen and the JV games are still open or something?
Freshman team this year. We do not have enough freshmen for a team. JV's open, middle school's open. What we are hearing is 1,500 will be the max in our stadium.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Do you want to say anything? Okay, last up, Mr. Pagnato, Technology and Facilities.
Thank you. Good evening. Technology front, just wanted to say that we are trying to procure some Chromebooks for this upcoming year that will help us in our efforts for that remote learning and hybrid approach. They are very hard to come by, though I will say, and a lot of schools are just kind of waiting in line, possibly not getting equipment till November, December. We're looking at mid-September, so that's going to help out a lot. On the facility side, as you can see visibly around here, we are making steps towards a safer environment when it comes to, we have isopropyl alcohol in the automatic hand. If you saw the Raider, Stay Safe Raiders stands throughout the district. We also have these tubs with these wipes that we're putting isopropyl alcohol in that will have enough for every classroom. So we're supplying those to keep them safe, as well as buying a limited amount of barriers and supplies for the classroom, some extra masks to help out with the students that may not have them. I have over here some samples too. A question was posed about air filtration and what we're doing. We have 3 steps of air filtration. When the air comes in, it goes through a primary filter, which is this big box steel filter here, then a secondary, which is a 2-inch filter, and then finally in the classroom it leaves that 1-inch filter. A lot of protection there. We switch these out quarterly. UV lighting technology in our environment, we've consulted with some engineers on that, and it works. The science shows it works, but in our environment, just because of the airflow and the way it goes, it wouldn't be as effective as just doing our job and replacing our filters on a more frequent basis if needed. So, thank you.
Next up, Legislative Liaison Report, Ms. Lally.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. And Mr. Christian is not here, or Brian. I think it's back on. Mr. Wentz?
Okay, thank you all for all of the in-depth reporting that you've given us. I'll continue to say that I know that it has been extremely stressful for all parties concerned. I know that everybody is giving 150% to try to make everything work. There's so many things that that, you know, you do this and this creates this problem, and I do understand that, and I just want to publicly say thank you to each and every one of you for all the time and the effort that you're putting in to try to make things flow as good as it can be and stuff. So it's not unnoticed, and it's greatly appreciated.
Was there anything from Mrs. Lewis? Did I miss something?
No, she didn't.
Yep, okay. We have a number of things to go through tonight, so we'll begin. We'll go through like normal, have Mrs. Carlson go through them, and then at that time we'll have public comment on agenda items. But first up would be the approval of the resolution to suspend a portion of Board Policy 0103 during the period of the emergency due to COVID-19.
Yes, our legal department actually spoke at our last superintendent's meeting and advised many school districts they might need to look into this. With the changes constantly coming about and policies needing to be updated, sometimes the date turnaround appears after a recent board meeting, and so you can't have the opportunity to maybe do 2 readings. One of them, per se, today would be our Ohio teacher evaluation. We have to approve a 2.0 update by September 1st. We don't have 2 meetings in between. So for this year, for COVID, the resolution is just to suspend the portion of 2 readings, that we just do 1 reading on policies that are being pushed out from the state on a shorter time frame, or maybe they've adjusted the times and they're just not aligning to school board meetings. So that's what the portion that we're asking to suspend is, just the 2 readings, and to reduce it to 1 reading per policy.
Okay, thank you. Next up would be the approval of a few board policies.
Yes, last board meeting, we did have our first reading on the protective face covering during pandemic. Again, we are under the governor's order right now, so everything is a cloth mask unless there's a medical reason why they can't. But that policy is the same as we presented last time, so this is actually a second reading for that one, as well as attendance. This is a second reading for the attendance one as well. This is the same one that we presented last board meeting. The 2 new ones that need to be adopted by September 1st are the standards-based teacher evaluation as well as the principal evaluation update. The Ohio teacher evaluation system has changed into what's called 2.0. They are making a major overhaul when it comes to student learning outcome. The evaluation in the past used to be half observation, half what the students score on a specific test, whether it be the state test on value added or a teacher created assessment or a program that like Ames Web or something that we might have data from. 2.0 was supposed to move forward this year, but we were allowed to delay till next year. Many districts could not get trained to even move forward with it. It's actually a benefit since we will be heading into negotiations in March. So the adoption of this policy is more out of compliance because we have to adopt the policy by September 1st, which is kind of interesting because we aren't trained and we won't be implementing it. We are still following the OTES 1.0. So when we do negotiate moving forward, we'll review the policy. I've spoken with Neola. If we need to make some changes at that time to it, we'll put it back in front of you to readopt and make the changes in collaboration with the union and the negotiated agreement that we settle on. So that one, and the principal one is just basically saying the exact same thing. It's stripping them of the student data, because what we used to as principals, they would take on an average total of all the data from their building, and they would get a student learning outcome based off that. So that will also be going away. Interesting enough, there is no actual student data this year anyway, so even though we're doing 1.0, we're only evaluating what we go and observe for their evaluation this year. So we're kind of modeling it, but we're still under 1.0. So again, those 2 are out of compliance. I've worked really closely with the union. We will negotiate it in March and make the changes then that need to be made specifically to our building, and then we'll readopt that policy again. But we have to submit to the state that we've approved these by September 1st.
Okay, thank you. Next up would be approval of the educational contracts.
Yeah, we have 3 different contracts. We have For the virtual students that will be at home for the extended time, we are going to, for grades 5 through 12, go with, it's the Jefferson County Virtual Learning Participation Agreement. They host the website. They will create it. We'll say South Range Radar Academy, but they host it. They create it for us. They are the company that has, for many of years, built this online program. They will upload all the information for us and be kind of the electronic hub for all of the school information, the resources, the curriculum for us. So because it's with another county, we have to sign an agreement that we will be partnering for 1 year with them for this. The other one is the Mahoney County Educational Service Center. This is our yearly agreement we have with them. This year, it's still exactly the same. They offer us educational support, special ed services, English second language, all kinds of different supports, as well as, also just helping administrative we have meetings, principal meetings, curriculum support, and different things. So that's the yearly contract that we have with Mahoney County Educational Service Center. And then the last one is we have a few students who we do send to Boardman for educational needs, so they sent us a contract that we need to sign to provide those students services.
Okay. Next up, approval of the youth intensive service contract.
Now, I know it's been a few years that you guys have been partnering with Youth Intensive Services. I met with them this past week. They're excited about trying to find new ways to either make masks fun and have kids do some interesting things with them. They are going to kind of come around at the beginning and work with our staff if kids need a break, a walk, because they've maybe been held into the classroom too long or whatnot. But they offer an invaluable service to our students who may have some more emotional needs that go beyond even what our counselors may have time to address and deal with. That one is no cost to us, but we do sign an agreement with them that they will be in our school, partnering with our school and working with our administration, teachers, and counselors.
Okay, approval of the athletic training contract.
Here's another opportunity that's actually quite unique. We have here Peak Performance Physical Therapy comes to many of our athletic events, and they act as our athletic trainers on site for a very low cost. They also would provide a student who maybe is not on a field sport, but maybe out on a course, that if something goes wrong, they would see them just to do an observation of them, kind of evaluate if they need to go to a doctor, their parent needs to take them, but they will offer outside services, even if they're not just a football player, a basketball player, some of those sports that they are on site for. Many school districts hire from Akron Children's and pay a full year salary for some of these things, so we're very fortunate that they're willing to do this for us to keep our student athletes safe for such a low cost.
Okay, approval of the remote learning plan.
The remote learning plan, if you remember, in May, the state of Ohio required us to create a remote learning plan on how we are addressing students because of being forced to be at home. It is a requirement that we need to file again with the state of Ohio, showing that if in fact we are pushed to remote, or as well in the hybrid, how we're addressing our remote students, either during the days we're at home or even the ones who have chosen remote. So there were specific requirements that the state put in front of us that we had to put into this document. So again, worked with the union. We took the last year's document, updated it with some of the changes addressing attendance, school day, how teachers' expectations are. So that's just an updated version of last year's remote learning plan.
Okay. Next would be the approval of the return to school plan and the timeline.
Okay. Since August 4th, when we announced that we would like to come back remote and also a hybrid learning plan, we, the Board of Education, thank you for those of you who were able to come and walk through the building. We've had a lot of conversations. I've spoken to many of you regarding this. I've spoken, Mr. Christian was not able to be here, and I spoke to Mr. Wentz about this because he shared something with me, and I told him it was fine that I would read it so his voice was also heard, because I know you guys are also going to be able to speak to how you feel about this. So he wrote that he would prefer that we do start school back 5 days a week. He wrote, he believes that the option is better for slowing the spread of COVID in the long run. The hybrid system will require children to work of working parents to be placed in daycare, leading to an increase in the number of possible cases. that students will come in contact with. Older students with increased free time will likely spend more time with friends outside the geographic bubble. Academically, face-to-face instruction is irreplaceable. He then goes on to state how I reassured him that our hybrid model is a short-term solution and that we will be reevaluating it. I mentioned to him that in our September board meeting, which is 2 weeks into school, after the first few days, we will be able to have better data to look at. It will allow us to look at data to decide if we need to stay hybrid or if in fact we are ready to go into 5 days a week. Barring any huge increase in these cases in our community, it is likely that he will strongly support returning 5-day model. It is important that we keep in mind that the goal regarding COVID is to slow the spread. If you expect 0 cases, you will be disappointed. There will be cases here. We will continue to take responsible precautions. Do not panic when you hear that a student or staff member tests positive. It is bound to happen. So long as we ensure that the local health system isn't overrun, we will be in a good position to continue educating our students safely. And I absolutely agree, especially with that last statement. We can't panic, but the remote plan that we are asking is exactly that. Bring us in slowly. I can't speak it any better than Mr. Rowan has said it multiple times. By starting off with a slower pace, teaching the routines, as Ms. Pierce said, learning how to serve 600 and some students in a classroom and 500 in a lunchroom. It gives us some time to get our processes and procedures in place. So when we do need time to bring the students all back face to face, that we'll be able to do it a lot more smoothly. Students will know the routines. We won't be stopping things. Hopefully everything will flow. And I am, after speaking with many of you at our September board meeting, will be a great time to sit and review where are we, where's the community, where's everything around us happening, and at that point have a discussion of when can we possibly return to 5 days face-to-face.
And while we're on that subject, and I think probably a number of board members are going to want to speak, but I'll go. I'll be very upfront in that I believe that we need to have the ultimate goal of being back 5 days a week. I also personally feel that we should be there 5 days a week, but as I've done a lot of times sitting on this board, I try to listen patiently, quietly to what those folks around me have to say. And I know that there are many folks that feel the same as I do. Even within the board, you've heard Mrs. Carlson say about Taylor, and I don't disagree with anything he had to say. I'm sure you're going to hear from some of our other board members. But I do think after I put much thought and process to it, that if we start off a little slower and do it half capacity, and I hope for a limited, shorter time, that we can evaluate how the districts around us that are going to go 4 or 5 days. I know a lot of these schools are changing up. I know some people that teach in Boardman. They are planning to be, at least the last update I had, planning to be there 5 days, but in a very short, or not very shortened, but they're shortening up the day. I know United is doing something similar to what we're doing, and I just think that we can watch and gather the data that other schools and how they're coming, and I also think that trying to balance, there are definitely people that are just scared to death to send their kids 5 days a week. I think probably employees, there are a certain percentage of employees that were scared to see full classrooms. I understand all of that. I personally, and I think I said it last time, and I'm going to say it again because I just feel like I need to get that out there on a consistent basis, is that, I am not fearful of COVID. I'm fearful of what the fear factor is doing to our community, our county, our state. our nation. I have chosen to be cautious. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not cautious. Do I wash my hands a little bit more than I probably did before? The answer is yes, but I am not going to live my life in total fear of going out. I do think that as we continue to move and get more socially interactive, that will make it easier for folks to look at that and see how that's going. And I really do believe that there's probably enough information overload out there that you truly can find data to support whatever angle you want to look at and stuff there. I just continue to see data all the time in that. But once again, I hope that we can ease into this. We can go a few weeks and then move back to having our kids in our district in it as close to a full 5 days a week as we can, even if that we have to shorten it up, so we have to disinfect a little bit more and everything. But I just hope everybody is patient. We're going to try to do the best that we can with the information that we have, and I just continue to ask parents and grandparents and all those involved to be patient with us. And again, we're going to try to do the right thing at the right times, because again, I think kids need to be in school. They need to be socially active with each other. I truly believe they need to be sharing germs to build their immunities up and stuff there. So that's my 2 cents worth for that. And if any other board member would like to speak to the issue at hand, please do at this time.
I would just like to add that I agree with Ralph, and I appreciate all of the work that the administration has done, all the plans that have been made to make this a cautious return. And I feel very comfortable with how we are returning, and I think this beginning of the school, the reentry plan, will give us a chance to look and see how the kids are interacting, how it works within the classrooms, in the hall, in the buses, in the cafeteria. So I hate to use the word I'm excited, but I'm anxious maybe to see how it starts and to see how it all works. I look forward to having those discussions in the future.
So
Anybody else? Go ahead,
I'd like
Brian.
to say something. I'll just say I'd like to explain my thoughts on this whole situation. While I appreciate all the work that's been put into this plan by the administration, staff, teachers, Mrs. Carlson, I feel the hybrid plan is both detrimental to the effectiveness of education and the health of our students and staff, as well as creating severe logistical challenges. Numerous studies and physician groups have spoken out in favor of full-time classroom learning environments during this time. Full-time classroom education is the most effective form of learning academically, socially, and behaviorally. While students are not in the classroom, they will potentially be increasing their risk of exposure by spending time with children outside their normal school circle in places like daycare or other child care facilities. Additionally, our staff and parents are now faced with the issue of finding ways to change schedules to accommodate kids being in school 2.5 days a week. If we move forward with the hybrid plan, I appreciate the willingness to reassess every 2 weeks, and I'm hopeful that more will see that the benefits of full-time in-class education outweigh the health risks to students and staff. And I'll just add to that we're talking about statistics and watching the trends and numbers, and I feel that those are already out there, readily available on the health department's websites. Anybody can visit those and take a look, and you'll see that hospitalizations, deaths, cases are remaining steady versus the number of tests given, but the other two are just in a nosedive down. Whether the virus is morphing, whether it's that our doctors are able to treat it more effectively, I couldn't tell you, but the statistics are out there, and that's what I see when I look at them.
Okay.
I think all of us would have to agree. When we went to our special meeting before, we didn't even put hybrid in as a plan, that we definitely want the kids to go 5 days a week. After doing the walkthrough with Mrs. Carlson and the administration, I have a better understanding of why we have to do the hybrid. I think it's a bunch of, no offense to you, crap that the health departments have to dictate how we have to teach our children, especially comparing us to a larger school. I commend you on all the work and everything that you've done, but I think as a parent, I want to dictate my own child's health. And that goes for the sports, the marching band, the drama. We are actually hurting these children, keeping them out of school. And I feel very, very upset what the government is putting our schools through and our children. That being said, I understand we're doing the hybrid, and the main thing is getting them back to 5 days a week.
Okay, next up would be the approval of the Ohio Teacher Evaluation Evaluator.
Yes, part of the policies do kind of have that in there, and in reality, we should have our credentialed evaluators board approved. So the following individuals, Mr. Matos, Mr. Rowan, Mr. Zolik, and Ms. Lewis, are all certified credentialed evaluators under OTES 1.0. So they are the individuals who will be doing evaluations this year. And then the second one, which is the principal's one, I am the one that will be doing the principal evaluations, and I too have passed the certification and credentialed.
Okay, next is the approval of the Ohio Principal Evaluation.
Yeah.
That's one you just
yep,
spoke to, yeah, okay. But two different items there. Approval of donations?
Mr. Phillips?
Every year, usually in April or May, we bring this to you. We do it on an annual basis. The Ohio Revised Code requires that the board accept donations each year, and although it's been a few more than, maybe 3 months more than it should have been, these are the last 15 months, now I guess it would be, of donations.
Okay. Approval of the floating substitute teacher compensation.
In this midst of COVID, we are very short on substitutes. The county goes through another company and shared that they are over 20% shy of what they need for a daily fill for the districts around here. We personally hire our own substitutes. I kind of wanted to jump on this because I was informed this past week that there are quite a few districts that are either offering a much higher, which we cannot afford, salary for floating subs. So we're going to identify 3 individuals that if they are just going to be in the building as floating subs daily, so they report every day, they will be here if a teacher falls ill, or even supporting us in other ways, to increase them to $85 a day to stay here. We are actually looking at 2 of ours to possibly be able to help with the remote learning, so then they will have a dual job going on. 2 of them are certified. So just trying to secure to make sure we have our subs here and to support, because as we said, we have no idea what's going to happen the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of school. They are not contracted under a contract. They are just like the regular subs, but these 3 specifically will report daily.
Okay, next up, the approval of Purdue Pharma class action FY21.
Mr. Phillips.
We were advised by Ennis Britton, one of our firms, working in coordination with a national firm. There is a class action suit because of the effects of the pharmaceuticals that they've had on kids, and the effect that they've had on kids, what it causes for school districts to have to work with those kids after the fact. And so this doesn't cost us anything if there's an award. They can't guarantee how much the award will be. He did give me, I'm sure Mr. Forenchik, is he here? Probably knows. But it's billions of dollars, if not millions anyways, but I think it is over $1 billion that schools will share in if this goes the way that it looks like it's going to go, or that the firm that's brought the class action thinks it's going to go.
Okay, approval of the South Range High School Robotics Club.
This year, we will have new individuals, but every year we approve that we have a robotics club here at the school. That will continue. They're still working out the details with how they're going to exactly do competitions. At the moment, MCCTC, I believe, is still saying that they're not going to host them, so they still wanted to get the group started. So in the event that some of that gets lessened and we're able to do competitions. So this year, people who participated last year, but this year they will be the volunteer coaches, are Mrs. Erin Burns, Mr. Jeffrey Burns, and Mrs. Nikki Cardinal, unpaid volunteer advisors for the 2021 school year.
Okay, and lastly, approval of the school resource officer memorandum of understanding.
Okay. Again, another yearly item, working with the Beaver Police and Beaver Township Board. This is our agreement to have a resource officer on site here at the school for the safety and welfare of the students and staff.
Okay. And that brings us to public participation on agenda items. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board or superintendent or treasurer at this time? Please state your name and your address for us, please.
My name's Michael Engel. You want my address, you said?
Yeah.
Fox Run, 11301 Fox Run Lane.
Okay.
So, you know, I come here today not only as a community member, but as a licensed physician. I, like many of you, am very disappointed in the decision on how to return to school. I don't think that it follows medical knowledge, and I don't think it follows the science, and it certainly doesn't follow the statistical trends over the past month that we've seen in our counties, which is really the only numbers that matter. When we talk about this, I hear people all the time talking about we're worried about the health and safety of our kids. Well, you know, health is not simply the absence of disease. It is about mental health, physical health, and their social growth. And we are already caused very big damage to these kids, and continuing down this road, I think, is not addressing the real issue here, which is we're also teaching our kids to be fearful of one another, of communities, and we can see what that's doing. And I think that the school is the place where we should be able to protect these kids, and there's better ways to do it than we've gone about. I have some specific questions. I assume, based on what we've said, that ultimately this decision went to Mrs. Carlson, and you, decided that this is where we're going. My question is I've heard we're going to reevaluate this, but based on what metrics and what time frame, and how is that decision going to be made? Because it doesn't seem to me that the things that I would follow as a physician are the ones that were followed making this decision. I heard saying, oh, we're going to have a slow start, gives us time to figure it out. We've had 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. How much more time do we need? And the last thing that I'll say is I'm pretty disappointed because I hadn't heard anything up to this point of what the plan is to address the learning loss that these kids have had. There's not one thing here, there wasn't one thing in the plan, I haven't got one thing in the mail about, hey, if your kid's behind, this is the plan. And I think that most of these kids are behind. And I think that that gap is just going to continue to grow because not all kids are going to do well in this hybrid system. And what's the plan? Where do I take my kid who before was doing okay, but now he probably needs an IEP? And if I'm saying that as an educated man with a wife who's a retired teacher, I can only imagine the struggles that other families are having. Thanks.
Thank you.
I can speak to the latter part, if you don't mind, real quick, just because you're right, we haven't put it in the plan. We have actually, prior to this, identified a program that is a benchmarking program that all the students K through 8 will participate in to help us identify where those gaps are so the teachers can start doing intervention and whatnot within the classroom. Again, the floating subs, if they're not in a classroom that day, they might be assigned to some small group intervention. But we have actually identified a program that we're going to use for benchmarking. We're going to use these first 2 weeks to do some small group testing to make sure we can find out where those gaps are so that they can be embedded in the learning and fixed. So.
Actually, Mick, and that is one of the reasons why when we did the walkthrough that we decided to go with a hybrid for the first 2 weeks to start, so the teachers could evaluate in a lower, smaller classroom to see what the kids need to catch up on that they've lost in the past 6 months.
Go ahead, Rich.
All right, Rich Franchak, 115 Longview. It seems like we're using the health department as the crutch we're leaning on to justify not going all day, every day. And I could buy that, except when I printed out the article from, it's on 21's website, back to school district by district breakdown. Austintown, Boardman, Camel, Canfield, Jackson, Milton, Sebring, Springfield, Struthers, Mooney, Ursuline, all in Mahoning County, are going back all day, every day. So, now, I don't know how accurate that is. I'm using their website. But how are all these other districts going back all day, every day? Yet this building, which was built, if I remember right, when we did the levy for this, we built it 10% bigger. The state gave us 10% bigger than what their enrollment was back in 05, 06, right, Jim? I think our enrollment was like 1,300 then, and they built this to handle about 10% more than that, because nobody saw the Great Recession and the plunge in enrollment that occurred after that.
I believe that's correct.
So this is actually designed for probably ballpark, let's say around 1,500 kids. And we're not anywhere near that. What's our enrollment, 1,300?
Just about.
So we're already 200 under the design limit for this building. So I don't think you can lean on the Board of Health. You've got 3 gyms, you've got an 800-person seat auditorium, you've got a huge weight room. I mean, there's no way you can't spread these kids out in this facility that would allow them to come back all day, every day. I just don't buy that. And that leads me to the point where I kind of smell a rat. And we were listening to this meeting, somebody texted me and told me that they have heard that 10 teachers have put in for medical leave of absence because they're afraid to come back. That's true or not true? All right, so we haven't had anybody, because my concern is, like, you looked at Lowellville, the rumors out there that 15, 20 teachers weren't going to come back. And if we're doing this to appease the South Range Education Association, I've got a big problem with that.
I'll jump in there real quick. I mean, the teachers are going to be here 5 days, all day, every day. So it's not a matter whether they're not here and stuff there. They're going to be here. So, that I don't buy into whatsoever, because they're coming every day and stuff there. So, what I would say, and again, I'm not going to disagree, all those ones that you rattled off, my goal, and I believe everybody here's goal, is to get us back 5 days every day with everybody. I think when you talk about the medical side of the equations, 2 to 3 weeks, even a month, and I'm not going to downplay that those kids aren't getting 5 days a week face to face, but if those schools have an issue, and that we don't know yet, nor do we know anywhere in the U.S., but if those schools have an issue and wish they would have started at half capacity, we'll be there. If those schools don't have an issue and we go 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and they're not having an issue and we're not having an issue, there's absolutely no reason that we can't just, for lack of a better term, flip the light switch and say starting on Monday, October 1st, or whatever day it would be, that we can have everybody back in school and stuff. I am the same as both of you that have spoke. I want to see kids back 5 days a week. All the things that you read off, I absolutely don't disagree with. If we can just start a little slow, be a little patient, make sure that everything goes like we think and how it'll be, I think we'll be better off, I hope. That's my goal.
I just think like Dr. Engel said, though, I think you should have some type of a framework in place then that says as of this day, as of the second week of classes, we're reevaluating, and if it's the status quo, we're going back every day.
Well, and I think,
And I don't have a dog in the fight anymore. I'm just, my
Right,
concern
I
as
understand.
a citizen of this community and as a citizen of the United States is we are setting up an educational deficit in this generation of children that they are never going to be able to overcome. There are certain subjects, when you're in what, second or third grade, you learn multiplication, fourth grade division. If you don't get it, you're going to be pushed forward and on through, and you're never going to go back and relearn that stuff. So you're going to have that deficit the rest of your life. And we've already had half a year of it, and I mean, to continue this through, I think is a disaster. And I mean, I've worked through it. I'm sure Dr. Engel has. There are, us essential workers, although my wife now refers to us as expendable workers. We've been out working through this whole thing. I had 2 people in my department that I wasn't here to there from those people. That was the farthest I was all day long, that were COVID positive. I did not get COVID. I don't think this is as transmissible as what it is. I don't know. Do you disagree with that, Mick? I mean, I don't think it's nearly. I mean, and I know, Brian, I've talked to your wife. I don't want to say it's overblown because people are dying and people are getting sick. But this is not 14th century Europe. This is not bubonic plague. We're not going to lose a third of the population. And to continue to perpetuate this, they call it a hoax. I don't want to call it a hoax. But what we're doing, this current way of approaching this epidemic, I think is just going to be, it's a disaster for this country, and it's going to be a disaster for these kids. On a separate topic, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Can I add something, Mr.
Sure.
Pinchuk? Just so everybody is aware, when we start talking about some schools going back face-to-face and some schools doing hybrid, what isn't released are the amount of students returning to those buildings. I know for a fact 5 of those buildings are between 65 to 50% full. So when they're going back, they may only have 65% of their students returning, not 85, which is where we're at right now. We only have 184 students choosing remote out of that 12-something.
All right, but all right, so then we're still at 85% capacity.
Well,
what's 85% of 1,500? Because that's what this, and that's using just the classrooms. Yeah. I mean, you could use the gyms, the auditorium, the weight room. You could spread kids out. I just don't think we're being creative here. I just don't.
Well, it will cost more money because we'll have to hire more people. That's kind of where you run into that. But I'm just saying, when we talk about face-to-face, we are also, every building is uniquely different with the amount returning. So we will absolutely look at what's happening here. We have been very clear with people that we want to get us in, get the routines, and when we are at our next board meeting, have that discussion. Is it working? Let's start looking to move forward. This isn't a year-long plan by any means. It's to get us restarted into school.
I mean, like I said, I don't have a dog in the fight anymore. So I mean, I'm concerned as a citizen that this generation of kids is going to be in big trouble. I am.
I just want to ask, you've said it multiple times, is there a metric that we're going to look at the next board meeting? And if so, what is that?
I mean, I would say the metric would be the academic disruption. If we're not having academic disruptions and we are not having a repetitive issue of, the academic disruption, I understand we're going to have cases, kids are going to be quarantined. It's just the nature of the beast. As Mr. Taylor said, we can't expect not to have any cases. But if we are successfully teaching our students our routines, our staff is staying safe, everybody's comfortable flowing, and we're not having disruptions, that's when we look at moving forward. Absolutely.
Mrs. Carlson, can you please explain to them the trace contact in a classroom like you did to us? I think that'd help a lot, because if we have a full classroom instead of the half classroom to start, since we're set by the guidelines by the Ohio State Health Department and Mahoney County, if we would have one affected, how many it would affect? And that's looking at the attendance for the children missing school instead of being in the classroom.
Yeah. Right now, if I call the health department and tell them a student in a classroom that is closer than 6 feet, they're going to have me quarantine all students within the 6-foot circle. So we did the walkthrough of mainly high school. It also affects middle school. A student goes through 5 different periods. They sit by 5 different kids. And since you have 25 to 30 students that now per the health department's recommendation, because they are within that 6-foot circle, are now home remoted for 14 days. And you know, that's where the academic disruption starts. I don't disagree that face-to-face is ideal, the number one thing we need to do. This is also giving us that time that we're training our students if the governor were to shut us down, and our teachers will train them how to do better remote, so it is more effective, because we didn't know what we were doing last year. And I think a lot of teachers did a great job for not knowing how to do it, but they've been working very hard to make sure that they're going to train the teachers. But with the close contact, now it's going to happen when we come back face to face, everybody, but maybe if we can teach the kids better to keep their masks on, just kind of reduce that. It is going to happen. We're just trying to reduce the academic constant disruption and get in here, get working, get moving. Again, assess if it's working, then maybe move forward.
I mean, one thing that I would think, like you're saying specifically with the high school. Okay, let's say you're talking freshman English. Normally, we would teach that on a rotating basis and say 4 classes, 25 kids a class, 25 kids per classroom. Why don't you just throw all of them in the auditorium, space them out nice? If you have, let's say, a freshman class, 100 kids, space them all out in through here and have the teacher come in and teach freshman English all in one period. And then the next period, that teacher leaves and you teach math. Or whatever. I mean, and you could do that in the gyms, and you could do that in the weight room. I mean, you've got a lot of space. I just think we need to get creative with it without, I hope it works. I hope what you guys are doing works. I honest to God do. But I am very, very worried educationally that we're going to have a lost generation of kids.
We could stand here all night and debate back and forth and stuff here. I mean, it's...
With regard to the Purdue class action, I loathe Purdue Pharmaceuticals. Everybody that was in middle administration and up in Purdue Pharmaceuticals, in my opinion, should be sitting in a federal prison for probably 20 years. The fraud that they perpetuated with OxyContin on this country and the opiate crisis that it started is a disaster. That said, us agreeing to that is a blatant money grab. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And I'm actually not even so much opposed to the blatant money grab if we're going to purpose that money. And I think if you're going to take money that was used because of drug abuse, I would like to see us take that money and purpose it into drug testing. I've been an advocate for probably, 6, 7, 8 years that we need to go back to that we should go to hair testing. The urine testing is somewhat effective, but there's a ton of kids that slip through the cracks. Hair testing is good for 3 to 4 months, so you're going to catch them. If they're vaping after school, we have a giant vaping problem. This generation, I know somebody whose kid was vaping THC, almost died, and that's a huge problem with this generation. So if you're going to take the Purdue money, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. They're a dirty company. I would hope to God you guys purpose it into drug interdiction efforts here at the school. That's my only request.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm kind of glad you mentioned that. I wanted to see, is there a way we could table this for the next meeting so we could do some more research on what this class action is going to involve? Because are we on a tight timeline with this?
Not only are we on a tight timeline, I could undo it now, but we were on July 31st was the deadline, so I gave Ennis Britton, and I can undo it if you want, but then we're leaving that money on the table. I think the money, I don't know that you couldn't do drug intervention with it. I think the purpose of this right now is the kids that were born with issues in special education, we would use that for special education purposes to deal with the kids that they could, apparently you can trace that. Dr. Rich, I don't know, it was the opiate use that made this kid have this issue or that issue. That's what I took out of it.
Well, number one, those kids are going to have a ton of money thrown at them anyway, Jim. I mean, the kids that have disabilities, we throw.
It's not my decision, and again, this is a board meeting, not a town hall meeting, but that's what I think that the suit is about. I mean, if you don't want to do it, we don't have to do it.
Is this just the approval for us to be in the suit?
Yes.
And we can decide if we get money, what to do with it afterwards?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remember right, the building that you're sitting in, you can thank the tobacco settlement money for.
Right.
Right. So I just think it's used for something more beneficial.
Well, I think the board, and I can confirm this with the legal people, we can decide what to use it for, but the purpose of the suit, the beginnings of the suit started because of what it has done to babies being born.
Okay.
All right.
Any other discussion? Okay. Well, whoops, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. My first school board meeting, so not sure how all this goes. Mary Pasqualini, 7124 West Western Reserve Road in Canfield. I had sent a letter to everyone. I'm a nurse practitioner at Akron Children's. I work in primary care. I have over 20 years experience as a nurse, and I think that that's beneficial considering the situation that we are in. But I speak more as a parent. I applaud you guys. I agree 100% with what you're saying. I have really smart kids. I think, we all feel like that, like our kids are really smart. My kids suffered in the winter. I suck as a teacher, and I have no problem saying that. And I fear that as I'm sitting here and we're talking about, we're gonna reevaluate in 2 weeks and we're gonna get our kids in, we're gonna get them in a groove, and then we're gonna change it all over again. And I feel like as I talk to parents in my office, I talk to parents on the phone, there's a lack of confidence here. I think the knee-jerk reaction of getting the letter in the mail, and then getting the one call, and we're going back 5 days, and 1 week later, nope, we're going hybrid, okay? World's upside down. How am I gonna manage this? I have 3 kids, I have a very busy husband, and I'm sure that's the same for everyone. The concern is, as you said, what is the metric? I don't wanna sit around and wait for what if Boardman High School has a huge outbreak of COVID. Okay, that's a what if, and it could be a what is. I don't want my kids' future or their education to be balanced on this idea of a fear of what if. I feel as though we're kind of like taking the cop out, the easy road. If it was a concern of testing, benchmarking, and trying to figure out where our kids should be, maybe we should have done that like now. Push back the school year, bring the kids in individually or in groups, and benchmark them then. I just feel like, like you had mentioned, maybe a little creativity is lacking here. I certainly wouldn't want to spend more money to hire people. I get that there are deficits and things that we just can't do, but I do believe we could be more creative with our strategy to get our kids back in school. I'm an eternal optimist, and I really want to believe that after 2 weeks we'll be, yeah, let's go back to school. But if we are making decisions based on the what ifs, our kids will never get back in school 5 days, because it will just be one concern after the other. It will be one group of people latching onto the news, listening to the things that they say, breeding fear, and then it'll be the other group of people that are sitting here saying, let's go, we got to get our kids back to school, and there will be no middle ground, and we will just hover at a hybrid schedule. Perhaps we're in school hybrid, perhaps then we're moved out, and the kids suffer. The kids suffer, their education falls behind, as it already is, as mentioned before, and the burden of this is on the back of our hardworking parents, and then the grandparents, and then the kids, like we said, are in daycare. So we're just shoving the risk somewhere else, and I fear the long-term effect on our kids, and I pray that these kids get back in school. I feel like when we talk about walkthroughs and things like that, and contact tracing, there's nothing that we're gonna do in 2 weeks' time that's gonna change the outcome of a contact tracing. If our county board of health says, this kid in this classroom was positive, and now, this many kids around them has to be quarantined, that does not change from 2 weeks in at hybrid, or we're doing 5 days. That risk is going to remain the same. Desks can be 3 to 6 feet apart. The 6 feet rule does not, I'm not sure why we are hard and fast at a 6-foot rule. Certainly, 25 students can't fit in a classroom that are with desks 6 feet apart. AAP, HealthyKids.org, CDC, Governor DeWine's Restart Guide all say 3 to 6 feet. And again, I just think that goes to a little creativity and leadership. And I just pray that I'm gonna be on the medical advisory committee. I'll see you on Wednesday, but I just pray that we can all just dig deep and be leaders here for our kids and get our kids back in school. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
We talked about the busing, and one thing I'll say, one of the best, easiest things we could do, certainly this first month, is have windows open on these buses.
Absolutely.
In the classroom. Probably the most important thing, better than masks, is 2 feet away with it.
And that,
Thank you for that comment as well.
yeah, that's definite on the buses, especially because of the masks. We've talked, have them open before they even pick the kids up just for airflow because they have the masks on, so.
You know, if I may just add, I'm a big fan of the metrics and seeing what is going to tell us that we're able to change our path. And I've actually asked that same question to our county board of health, and I think Mrs. Carlson has a good handle on what we need to be watching and helping us make that decision in 2 weeks if this is the plan we end up going with. My concern is talking with the county board of health. They essentially said, we have no idea what's going to make us change our guidelines, change our path. So as much as I dislike it and disagree with it, that's what we're going to be living with for a while here, because they have no metrics. I straight up asked them, what is going to change these guidelines? And they said, we don't know. So that is a big part of this. They have a board as well. I'll be addressing the board this week at their meeting on Wednesday. And that's open to the public. If anybody would like to join it, all you have to do is get on their website and request the GoToMeeting link.
Brian, do you go there in person, or you'll be speaking online to them?
Their meetings are strictly virtual. Nobody
Nobody
even the
can
board
come.
members are at home. They don't.
Even the board member. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Tim Mariano. Ms. Carlson, I talked to you a couple weeks ago on the phone. I'm with these parents as well. I feel like for parents who were, as me and my wife work full-time, we were choosing the full option. We almost don't have an option. I feel like the people that are super scared of COVID have a great option. For those of us who aren't so scared of COVID and and know the importance of us being in full-time, don't really have an option. This hybrid is throwing a lot of wrench in our schedules. I'm trying to find people. I know I talked to you about on the days that we are working and my kids are now home, are they required to be on the computer because they're not necessarily going to be at home because they have to be somewhere else. I also feel like my wife works for Akron Children's as a mental health therapist. We're not talking about the mental health issues that these kids are going through that started in March when one day they were in school and the next day they weren't. I have a fourth grader and a first grader. I talked to you about, and again, I know this is all coming from Mr. DeWine, but how my first grader is supposed to learn to read and watch pronunciations by his teacher when we can't see her mouth. Mm-hmm. I have 2 severe asthmatics. They now have to wear masks that they don't keep on. And now we come out with masks aren't good enough either, or the face shields can't work either. Now we've got to cover everybody's mouth. I just feel like, again, I echo all of these people. It needs to be the number one priority to get these kids in. And I even suggest, I had brought it up to you when I talked to you, pushing them out, spreading them across the schools, however that would work. But I think there are bigger issues that these kids are going to be dealing with. Again, coming from a wife who deals with mental therapy, these kids are dealing with some major things right now, not being here, not being around their friends, and not being in that face-to-face. I have a student, just like Ms. Pascalini, who excels very well here and struggled very much. He got into a routine, he's older, he got into a routine on doing the remote all by himself and doing what he needed to do. My kindergartner at the time struggled. I walked into him crying, my wife crying, everyone's crying because nobody wants to get on, nobody wants to do the work. And now, now we're almost looking at that where, yes, he will be here 2 days a week, but the other 2 days, how is that gonna work for him? Or, and again, he's the worst asthmatic, and that's not an exception. If he had a learning disability or a behavioral problem, cool, he doesn't have to wear a mask, but he doesn't. He actually has a medical issue, and that's not an exception for him not to wear a mask. So I just am echoing everybody else. Getting them back in full time is the biggest, most important thing. And I, like you, sir, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I am in insurance. I have nothing to do with the medical. Since this started, I pulled the numbers personally from the CDC website. I forgot to print them out. I was going to print them out to bring them to you. The percentage of COVID cases in Mahoning and Columbia County are compared to the population here, are very low. So we just need to keep that in mind, that it is scary, and unfortunately people have died, but our schools face a lot of other sicknesses and things that are shared all throughout the year that are a lot worse and can be a lot deadly. I mean, we're dealing with that principal in Poland who lost all her limbs due to the flu. So anything like that can happen. The percentages of COVID in these two counties compared to the population is very low. So I will be here every board meeting until we can open up full time, because that is what is important for these kids. And for having young kids, they need to be here. Their minds need this. This is what they need.
Stand to the mic, Rich. I can't hear you real good.
One thing that just dawned on me, the one thing that this community's always had going for it, it has a very close relationship with the churches in the community. And it just dawned on me, like when my kids were little, they went to Mount Olivet for pre-kindergarten. It has a school. If you look, the Methodist Church has a school. You've got Greenford Christian. I mean, a lot of these churches have capacity. Have we ever considered maybe approaching them, and you could have first grade at Greenford Christian, kindergarten at Mount Olivet, and spread the kids out so you've got more space here? I mean, just spitballing it off the top of my head.
And again, I sure don't want to discount any of that, but trust me when I tell you, I know they're working hard to figure this out, and this is an issue that I just know. I've been around enough, bear with us. We're going to try. I promise we're going to try to get back to as much as normal as we can. I don't disagree with anything that any of you had to say and stuff there. And I hope and I pray that we can get back and going. Those ideas, there's a lot of things moving parts that a lot of people don't see and stuff there. And be patient. Let's try this. I know what we have to lose. Everything that you're talking about there, all of you and stuff. Bear with us. Let's get a few weeks in. Let's see how things are going. Who knows what things are going to change for us? It may not be our decision in the end. The governor's liable to come back and say no school's going to open. I don't know. There's so many unknowns, and I understand how passionate of an issue this is for all of you, for me included, and every board member and administrator up here in that. So let's try to work through it. Let's pull together as a team, and let's try to do the right things, and hopefully the outcome is going to exceed what we were hoping in that.
I'm just saying, if it's space is an issue, reach out to the community. I think the community would support you.
Thank you all for, I know we're only supposed to go 2 minutes per person. This is a very passionate issue, and try to let everybody speak what they feel and that, including board members. So, please be patient with us. We're going to try to do the best that we can with what we know and what we've got. So with that, any other board discussion before we go back and work through the resolutions? Okay. Okay, first up is the approval of, I flipped one page too many here. Approval of the resolution to suspend a portion of the board policy 0103 during the COVID period. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll motion.
Terry moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor, or excuse me, I think we need a roll call vote on this. Mr. Phillips?
You're right. Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz.
Yes.
Amy White. Brian Bagwell.
Yes.
Next up will be the approval of the board policies. I'm not going to read through them all there. Can I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Amy moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of the educational contracts. Can I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Brian moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
We'll give that one to Amy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of the youth intensive service contract for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
Amy moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of the athletic training contract with Peak Performance. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll motion.
Terry moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Brian seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the approval of the remote learning plan. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Amy moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the approval of the return to school plan and the timeline. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll motion.
Terry moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Brian, did you catch that, Jim?
I did. Okay. I'm gonna book that as a roll call. Is that okay? Everybody's
Yep, we're gonna
okay
have
except
to,
Brian?
yeah, because yep, go ahead.
Okay.
Are you gonna call the roll, Jim, or you're
Oh,
just?
well, I can. Brian Bagwell?
No.
Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Yes.
Next up, approval of the Ohio Teacher Evaluator. Can I have a motion for that?
I move.
Brian moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the approval of the Ohio Principal Evaluator. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Amy moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of donations. Can I have an approval for that? Or motion, excuse me?
So moved.
Brian moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of the floating substitute teacher compensation. May I have a motion for that?
I'll motion.
Terry moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the approval of the class action suit. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
I'll second.
Amy moves. Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of the high school robotics club?
I move.
Brian moves. Can I have a second?
A second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, approval. Can I have a motion for the approval of the school resource officer memorandum of understanding? A motion for that, please?
motion.
Terry moves. Can I have a second?
A second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next up would be public participation for non-agenda items. And doesn't look like we have any public. Ladies? Nothing? Okay. And last up before executive session would be our July-August district update. Nothing?
I
We've
don't have
gone
anything
through
more
it.
than what we've talked about.
Okay. At this time, under Ohio Revised Code 121.22, it asks for us to go into executive session for the consideration and appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of a public employee, as well as consideration of the purchase of property for public purchase and
just
North
stop at
Lima
purpose.
Stadium and
Yeah.
some other ground.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
just down to the purchase.
Okay. Can I have a motion to go to executive session?
I motion.
Terry moves, Amy seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
Terry Lally,
Yes.
Ralph Wentz,
Yes.
Amy White, Brian Bagwell.
Yes.
The board goes to executive session at 8:30 PM. Dean's up there. Okay, we're back from executive session at 9:15 p.m. Mrs. Carlson, personnel, please.
Yes, first off, I have to approve the 2021 school year, the following people as substitute teachers on an as-needed basis, as long as all criteria is met. The first three are in reference to the earlier agenda item of a floating sub that will report daily, but will not have a set assignment, increased pay of $85 to assist during the possibility of absence teachers due to illness. The other substitutes, Thomas Draper, Charlene Creed, Barb Stacy, Richard Hura, Rebecca Campbell, John Colin, and Laura Sullivan. Some of them are in between. I do just want to make a statement that they're not guaranteed, but we wanted to board approve them during this time. Some of them are a little nervous, so they're kind of on hold. The next thing is to approve an itinerant and or substitute bus driver, cafeteria aides, custodial aides, teacher aides, nurse office aides, playground aides, bus, van, driver, etc. Doug Wilson, substitute bus driver, Jeannie Cunningham, aide, Charlene Creed, aide. Approve the following supplemental contracts for the 2021 school year. Matt Combs, freshman football coach, 13%. Everything has been done for some reason, and we were notified, just so that note, ODE is somewhat behind, but he has all of his work done. He has everything done. I've approved the PAP. It's just sitting there pending, so I did ask him to call ahead and find out if it's just one of those ones that's on delay. But we actually physically have a hard copy of everything he had to submit to them, so we know everything's completed. Background check, everything's fine. We just don't know why it's sitting there pending. Jacob Zinni, we were given the wrong titles for him and David Rock. Jacob Zinni should have been the freshman football coach, and David Rock was the assistant varsity. The percentages didn't change. It was just the title, so we wanted that corrected on their job description. Nathan Toy, assistant varsity coach, 13%. Tyler Bradley and David Bazzacco, to amend the minutes from the 13th to reflect a change of percentage to 7% for both coaches from 8%. Alex Dickey, Spencer DeSalvo, Chris Patrone, and Zane Kreidler, middle school assistant coaches for football, each receiving 2.25. Again, Chris Patrone's is sitting out there. Everything is in hand, but we just don't know why it's sitting out there. We did get notice that they could take delay to get through all of them. With the fact it's sports season, that might be why. They're the last two I approved, and they're just sitting out there pending. Katie Adams, we had received Katie's information, as I stated, and thought she was the only one, and then received Gianna's, but they both will be co-junior class advisors, so we're going to need to amend the June minutes to reflect that she's only 4.5, not 9% for the junior class advisor for Katie. Approve the following volunteers for athletics for the 2021 school year. Joseph Brooks and Bart Dockery, both football volunteers. Grant a one-year limited part-time educational aid contract for the 2021 school year to Jessica Kraus. Accept the resignation of Jessica Foley, long-term sub, effective August 11th, 2020. She received a full-time position. Accept the resignation of Stephanie Coleman, educational aid, effective August 11, 2020. Grant a one-year limited teaching contract to Bailey Gauncey for the 2021 school year. Ms. Gauncey will be placed on step 0 for salary purpose as per the SREA and SRBOE negotiated agreement. Ms. Gauncey will also, under the supplementals, will qualify for 3 additional days for IEP and then 2 release days. And that would be it.
Mrs. Carlson,
Which one?
This is my fault. She gave it to me to look over. We always pull anybody related to a board member out, so let's pull out Nate Toy and do a separate resolution for him. We do the same thing, by the way, for Katie, for cheerleading when that happens. And also, there should be a roll call at the end of this. And those were oversights on my review of these things the other day. So.
All right, so let's do Nate Toy. Is that the only one we need to pull out? Is Nathan? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Motion to accept for Nathan Toy to be a coach. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll motion.
Terry motions. Can I have a second?
I second.
Brian seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
Brian Bagwell?
Yes.
Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wintz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Abstain.
And then next up, a motion for all the other personnel. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Amy moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
fingers aren't working. Brian Bagwell?
Yes.
Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Motion to adjourn.
I motion.
Terry moves, second.
Second.
Brian seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned until our September meeting. Thank you all. Appreciate it.